Yo, I'm gonna try to get all this stuff on today. I gotta do a lot of fabricating. I got my car in the garage. It needs to thaw out a little bit still. Last thing I need is to try to enjoy myself with the Chinese water torture. Now my downpipe for my turbo, it's not touching this air conditioning bracket, but it's really close. So when I had this bolted up, I put my downpipe on the other engine and I just scribed a line to where I think I should cut it out a little bit just to get a little more room. That should do it. I tapped 4 of these bolts out to 10 by 125. Hopefully my manifold won't flop around too much now, because the holes on that manifold are just too big. I got an MLS gasket for this too, and these holes are just a hair small. I'm going to get a die grinder after these holes and make them just a little bigger so these studs fit better. Well, that moves a whole lot less than when I got it. With these nuts on here, this thing don't move at all. I gotta die grind the manifold on the corners a little bit here because these nuts are just barely touching. I just used a 3-inch cutoff wheel. Just dug into the edges just a little bit. That should be just enough. That's good. Now I mocked this turbocharger up on this block before I got this rebuilt, just to see if it had fit, and I had to grind out a little bit out of here. So I'm going to do the same with this one, and then I'm going to put my turbo up here and make sure it fits. I'll probably take a little bit more off than what I did with this one too, because it kind of wasn't enough. I wanted to wait till after this engine was all put together before I ground on this too, because I didn't want any of this aluminum getting inside the engine. Looks good to me. I got all kinds of room. Well, I might as well torque all these bolts down. I think this manifold's here to stay now. These small bolts are 22 foot-pounds, and I'm just going to do 10 more pounds on these bigger ones. So I'll do them at 32. Looks like one of them I'm going to have to guess. I'm sure normally I'd want these all to be the same torque, but I'm not normal. So there. Pretty sure that's there to stay. I got this Banjo Bolt for my turbo for the oil pressure line. And it's got a restrictor in here. Usually restrictors are for ball bearing turbos. Mine's a journal bearing. So it should be 3AN. And 3AN is about 3/16. I'm going to go a little smaller than that though, because this eBay line is a little smaller than 3/16. In fact, it won't even, this drill bit won't even fit in there. This is probably 3/16 hose, but I'm thinking where it's crushed, it's probably smaller right at the fitting. This is a 5/32 drill bit, so it's 2 sizes smaller than a 3/16. There, I'm all the way through. There, that's better. I got the cheapest 3-core aluminum radiator you can find on eBay. I had to make sure it had the 1-inch hoses. All of the twin cams, they got bigger hoses on here, and I can't use them. So I searched high and low for the right size. And I don't know how the hell these Chinese people do it, but I got a hose kit. It's all silicone, and this is cheaper. This whole kit is cheaper. It comes with the clamps and everything, and this whole kit is cheaper than one hose at a parts store. So I bought all of these and I'm going to put them on because the ones that are on it are really old and they're original, so they're all ready to bust. I'm going to put this radiator in first though. It looks fancy. I don't know how they make this stuff so cheap. They sell it by the truckloads though. Yeah, my factory one's a 1-core. So this is quite a bit bigger. The cores look really nice. I mean, it looks like a good radiator. Nice welds. Guess we'll see. This petcock wasn't screwed in all the way. I see that's kind of boogered up a little bit somehow. I'm gonna see if I got a tap for that so I can chase it. Silicone paste on this. I think my new one's a little bit thicker. Look what I found. Yeah, what's that nut for? Yeah, just a little bit thicker. I hope it fits right. Silicone paste on this. These clamps always like to leak. These are cheap, no brands too. So I would like to use the pinch clamps if I have a choice. I know some of these hoses are a lot thicker. Yeah, if I can use the factory hose clamps, I'm doing it. Because these work a lot better. Isn't that special? I just hope my intake pipe fits. Uh-oh. My coolant tank don't fit. If I get this connector out of my way, it probably will. This bolt for the fan, it looks like if I leave it in, it might wear a hole in this thing. I'm just going to leave that one out. Nice. Good enough. Got a few heater hoses on the firewall I might as well replace. I'm going to try to be careful with these. I'm going to cut them off. I don't like yanking on old heater hoses. It's a good way to wreck your heater core. It's a little long. I got to cut it down a little bit. This hose is a lot fatter for whatever reason, so I got to use the crappy hose clamps. Bought some motor mounts off of eBay. The factory ones usually aren't strong enough, so I got these things. They were cheap, and this seems kind of wrong. Things all flopping around like something stupid. This bolt's too small. Thankfully I had a bolt and a nut, a couple of washers laying around. Yeah, if I run a whole bunch of turbo horsepower on this, these tops, they rip right off. So I can't use these. That's the one mount that you definitely need when you're doing this. Using actual torque on these is probably a waste of my life. Because they gotta bend down into shape. Because these don't really fit. So I just get them really tight. This reservoir's hitting this mount. I want it snapped in all the way, so I'm going to have to shim this up a little bit Found a whole bunch of fender washers I had laying around. I'm just going to put those under one hole and leave the rest. Yay, the shoe fits just right. So far, so good with the aftermarket junk. I can't find any torque specs on these brackets that go from the aluminum oil pan to the transmission. So these bolts I got like snugged up. And I'm going to torque this one down to, I don't know, 24 foot-pounds. Just seems like a good guess. I'll do these to 18. Well, I think it's time to try to stick it in the hole. It don't fit. One more thing I get to modify. Real tight fit, but I crammed it all together like this. It's kind of fun. These mounts, all this pock marking on it, or whatever you want to call it. It looks like it was just old rusty metal that they just made work, and wow. Good cheap Chinese stuff. I stripped out a bolt and had to Healy coil it. That was fun. Being stupid with the impact. What do I do? This whole engine's got to move that way about a ½ an inch for them bolts on the mount to line up. I'm going to loosen these up a little bit. This mount actually bent a bunch trying to tighten it up. I wasn't comfortable with the nut and the lock nut, so I put a jam nut on the end of it. Wow, that's stiff as stiff can be. Might as well see how this clutch is going to work out for me. I want to see how it feels, so I'm going to hook it up. Well, the clutch feels nice. It's actually less stiff than my other one. I'm going to put these brackets on next because I want to get this turbo up here and see where that's all going to fit. Yeah, that thick radiators might be a little problem for me. That AC line's right on this pipe, but I think I can work with it. I'm going to take this AC compressor pipe and I'm going to try to bend it up towards the radiator so it's not there. I'm going to work on that. Well, that sure did give me a little more room. Well, that's looking right about where it's got to be. That AC line's tucked back pretty nice now. I think I can work with that. I don't know if I'm going to have to run a slim fan or not. It's pretty darn close to everything. It's almost touching this slave cylinder. But I think I can get a pipe around here to run an air filter. Yup. Looking like that's right where I'm going to want the thing. I'm going to tighten a couple of these bolts up so it's all clocked the way I want it to be. Now that I got everything where I wanted, this bolt don't fit. Just when you think you got it licked, you don't have it licked. I absolutely need to have this stud on this inside. I cannot use a bolt. Wouldn't you know, I think I can do it with this, if this slave cylinder wasn't in my way. All that monkeying around, I can't get this thing on because this nut is too big. I'm going to grind just a little bit off of this nut now that it's tight. Put a little tape on there so nothing falls in there. I had to grind a little bit off of this surface too, but it should still seal on that copper washer. I got that ground down as much as I want to go. Looks like I need to make the skinniest 14 millimeter that nobody's ever seen. Holy smokes, I got no room. I want to get that tighter too. I didn't even feel them crush yet. I made a tool. I feel like I'm working on some German piece of monkey shit or something. Making tools. I don't really want this to touch the turbo, so I put a little piece of folded up tape. Oh, that wasn't cool. I broke my tool. I think it's tight enough. Tight enough to break a cheesy homemade socket. There, it's not touching anything. I probably want to figure out how to keep this from turning because I don't want it to vibrate loose. I put a bulb with an upside down nut on one side, and I just put some rubber hose on it, and it's touching this bolt. So hopefully this thing won't rattle loose. That's the best idea I could come up with. Well, it's in, and that turbo's crammed in there. So I think that's enough for the day. Okay, bye.